They're swords, they're wands, they're swords, they're wands, they're swords, they're wands. Hello, this is Kara from Lady Kara Tarot. I'm doing my end of the month February wrap up, deck of the month. It's not, there's still a couple days left, but my energy is definitely winding down at the end of this month, and it seems like everything's winding down right now. And so I know what I need to know as far as what's gone on this month and where I think things are going to land. Kind of last week was really the week when things just kind of coalesced for me, and I understood. I kind of said, I know everything I need to know. I could do this video, end of month video now, but there are always new things that come up, and I found a wonderful, wonderful quote today that I want to share with you later. Hopefully I'll remember. We'll see. So we just had a huge snowstorm here. For us, it's huge. We had 6 inches, and it was 6 inches of a heavy, wet snow. So a lot of broken branches and the trees around the house. Fortunately, nothing hurt the house. We were without power for, I think, a good 18 hours, which was significant given that I have a senior in the house and I have to be concerned with that she doesn't get too cold, and aside from the fear that the water pipes might freeze and things like that. But it came back on and everything was fine, and thank you, Lord. So we are, everything was fine. It got cold. The house got down to 60 degrees for a significant period of time. I put the covers on the harps so that they would be okay. And because of that, we were without any caregiving help for 4 days in a row, which is a long, long period. I've re-injured my neck again. It's been quite bad the past few days. Because without the caregiving help, I have to do all the lifting on my own. So that's kind of where we are. And so my sinuses are also acting up, and it's all that. If you hear a hum in the background, it's the humidifier running in this room, which I kind of move from room to room to try to keep keep things moist. And I say that knowing full well that that word is an absolute ick for some people. Sorry, not sorry. So let me start with some of the things that my regular monthly stuff that I do in tarot, not, is I do the daily scripture reading. Not daily anymore. That's something that I've kind of relaxed on. I'm using the Gustav Doré Great Bible Tarot and the Victorian Fairy Tarot, and they are a 1-2 punch together, let me tell you. I have realized that the Doré Great Bible Tarot guidebook is orthodox. And so it is, it refers to some gospels that are not in the traditional gospels, because they include some additional books in the Orthodox Church, and that would be considered, I guess, Gnostic gospels in other faiths. And boy, is it dark. Boy, is it dark. A lot of emphasis on the Old Testament. And that has to do with, um, the Old Testament is bigger, and Gustave Doré illustrated the Bible. So um, there are going to be more illustrations for the Old Testament. So it's very hard stretch to call it affirmational. Um, and then the Victorian Fairy Tarot, while it has lovely poetry quotes, they are often also not affirmational. They're from the mostly Victorian era authors. And so I have acknowledged that using these two decks together at the same time is kind of like your daily warning instead of your daily affirmation. It's kind of like, it's either don't do this or don't let this happen to you. So that's been another reason why I think I haven't felt as called to do it every day. Some days I just can't take the darkness. But what that means is that this pairing will be with me for longer than normal, because I'm not doing it every day. So longer than 78 days. This month, I finally started recording my beginnings of my re-exploration of the Tarot de Marseille. I figured out a way to do it so even though they're still ponderous as I go through each 1 through 10 of each one of the suits and comparing 4 different decks, at the same time, I think I found a system that keeps it from being just unearthly dull. So anyway, for me, I hit the right thing for me. As I said before, I didn't initially intend to record this. And so when I started recording it, I just thought, no one in their right mind would be interested in slogging through this in this way. And so I found a different way that I think makes it move a little faster and is, if not engaging, at least tolerable. And I've gotten through 3 of the suits. I still have to do the cups. I knew I wanted to see something from my friend Ina at Taproot Tarot. She's so well versed in the history of symbols of historic tarots. And I knew I had the cup suit left to do, and I knew there was a specific elemental association that I had not talked about, and I just wanted to hear something from her, and she provided. That day that I was thinking that evening, she had a post come up, and well, I mean, it's not that it addressed necessarily any of the things that I was thinking about. It's just that I kind of just I needed to hear from her before I just kind of needed. She's one of my historical touchstones, and I needed to hear from her before I continued on with the final suit. And sometimes, it's you only need a trace word to trigger something that, oh, right, I forgot this, or, oh, right, I need to add this. And so, thank you, Ina. And then the other series that I've been doing more slowly is the How to Improve Your Storytelling. As with a lot of things, I started out with an outline of what I would cover, and then by the time I got to my second one, it was different, and so that pushes other things back, and again, I kind of let it be organic with what it, partially because with that series, thinking about what I've done in the previous ones so that I have a build an organic build, and I'm also trying to go from exercises that can be done without the cards and then relating it to the cards on the table. And because I believe storytelling is a separate skill, and I believe there are elements of it that you have to work on away from the cards, and then it's a matter of how you incorporate it with the cards. Speaking of storytelling, I just sent out a post today on my YouTube channel with a link to a marvelous woman who is a storyteller. Her channel is her name and Bard. She also is an instructor, I think a college instructor in Irish history and Irish mythology, and just has a wonderful, truly the Irish charm, wonderful, almost magical way of drawing you in and speaking. So I enjoy her channel tremendously, and I will put that link down below. And so I've been listening to her more this month. And storytelling made me think of that. And so that is, and my focus deck of the month has been Tarot of the Divine. Tarot of the Divine is not my art style. I don't enjoy Disney art style. And if you don't know, the illustrator for Tarot of the Divine worked for Disney for a while. So that's definitely inculcated in something essential about her style is Disney-esque. So the art style isn't my bag, really. But I really was very interested in the mythology of it and have been from the beginning. This is not the first time I've worked with it. I knew by making it my focus deck for the month, I would be engaging more with it and with the stories. For something like this, I have tried to just sit down and read the book and read the stories, and they just don't stick. They just don't stick. However, if I'm using the cards and they're in a reading, and then I use the guidebook, the stories are finally starting to stick. It's going to be a long haul with this deck. It just is. And so for that reason, it's not a favorite. It's not a favorite, but I'm enjoying it still. My drive for learning these world fairy tales and mythologies, to dovetail them with the European fairy tales that I know so well, is still an interest of mine. And it didn't occur to me that makes it kind of a Fae deck, and I had been saying I was interested in working with Fae decks, so that was actually a holdover from my January decks, that I decided to move it to be my focus deck of the month for February. And for me, what that means is I just use it more frequently than the others. Now, for those who followed my deck of the month in the past, I switched things up, not in the calendar. I usually calendar a deck a week. So in theory, 7 days a week, but I'm always doing 1 day with the focus deck, 1 day with the deck of the week, 1 day with the focus deck, 1 day. Well, my decks of the week, I decided to use differently this year, in that instead of using them for a week at a time, I've scheduled them for a week at a time, but they're all out on my reading area, so that I will just kind of randomly grab them throughout the month. And this worked. This has done something different. Using one deck for a week, I think I have found that there can be kind of a I'm going to stick with it, and I'm going to slog through it, and then that week will be over and I can put it back on the shelf. What using them as a mix has done for me is it has really highlighted for me the decks that just don't do it. They're just not, that they're not, I'm not connecting with them in the same way, because as I've said, I want decks that spark joy. I and oh, I saw a one. I think it's Wild Earth Ways. I'll put her channel name here. She had a marvelous phrase about wanting to use decks that she connects with, and wanting to use decks whose value system she can wholeheartedly connect with. And I thought, oh, it was like my whole mind just went. That was just a beautiful turn of phrase, so incisive and so it just resonated with me on a really deep level. And I'm not sure I do have to wholeheartedly buy into the value system, but that is yet another definition of what I'm looking for, put in really elegant language with my decks. So what was interesting is that in using this new system in January, I got rid of a deck because I realized I'm not liking this deck, I'm not enjoying this deck, I'm tolerating this deck. And it has nothing to do with whether I'm getting good readings from it. And so this month, 2 of my decks that I was working with are now are going to be on the resale pile. One of them, you won't be surprised, I've had my ups and downs with this from the beginning, the Goddess of Love Tarot. And with the caveat, I have to say, every time I've read with it, I've gotten an incredibly strong reading this month, and yet it just feels like I'm forcing myself to work with it. And who has time for that? I don't. And the other one is another deck that I told you right away, it's a pip deck and I don't like the pips at all. And so I've been trying to use it as a majors deck because I love Monty Farber's guidebooks. I love Amy Zerner's fabric collage art. And one of the reasons I got this was for the majors. It wasn't a surprise that I didn't like the pips. I got it knowing that, and but I liked the majors, and they're different from the majors in the Enchanted Tarot. This is the Enchanted Love Tarot, and I have the Enchanted Tarot. But what I came to realize, first of all, you might see this, it says Oracle. So it's like, I've tried using it as just a majors only deck. And I've tried, majors and courts and majors only. And then after using it with majors only, I thought, oh, well, maybe I could cut them down and make them Oracle cards because they each have a flag with a keyword at the bottom. And I do like the keywords. And I finally just said, enough. I don't have to keep trying to work with it. I don't have to invest more time in a deck that I'm not enjoying. Because one of the things that I realized is I adore the Enchanted Tarot deck. I adore it. I adore the artwork. Even though I like her artwork, you can even tell from this one, I think, something about the collage artwork in this one is a little muddier. It's not quite as crisp. So with all that, I said, I'd rather, and you've heard me say this before, I'd rather take the time that I would be spending with this and add it to the time that I'm using with the Enchanted Tarot and just forget this. So this one will be moving on in one way or another. And I say that because it's missing one of the kings. At some point, I had one of those big, it slipped out of my hands and it flew all over the room. And I lost one of the kings, and I have pulled out all of the furniture in that room to see behind it. Cannot find this card. So I might be able to write to the publisher and get a replacement for that, in which case then I'll try to sell it. If not, it may just go its own way. So that's, for me, has been informative about by varying the way that I use the decks. Instead of using one deck all week, by interposing them with each other, I'm getting a better sense of my connection with them. I think it's that I'm enough of a Virgo that if I have a week to work with something, I'll work for that week. I'll work with it for that week. And I can make it a profitable week. And as I said, then kind of feel like, okay, I did my time. I can put it back on the shelf. When they're all out to be worked with at the same time, it just highlights that I'm not connecting with two of them and that I don't want to. That's what it's really highlighting, is that because I have that daily counterbalance with a deck that I really love, such as the Floral Tarot, one of the decks that I was using this month. Every time I use that deck, I just feel like, oh yes, surprise me again. Surprise me again with how great you are. The Floral Tarot is wonderful. But not my deck of the month. So, once again, I have to address the downfall. I lost sight of my word of the year, retrench, and I lost sight of it in a big way. A big way. Now, for those who've been talking about low buy, no buy with me, you knew that I had given myself the proviso of one deck a month and a free pass for an artist deck. So my one deck this month was the incredible Minchiati Neri. And I should probably say, I probably have a free pass in my mind for Minchiati decks. I would say at this point, I'm collecting Minchiatis. There are some I have no interest in, but this one is absolutely gorgeous. I've already done a flip through of it. It's by Marco Benedetti. I think this is my first deck of his that I've gotten. And it's a traditional Minchiati, but it has the black background, gold border and black background, which makes it so striking. Lovely, lovely. And then, so my artist free pass was the mass market of Natasha Roland's Tarot Chimera. I've also already done a walkthrough, flip through of this. Flip through. For me, flip throughs mean I haven't worked with it. I'm just showing you the deck. And walkthrough means it's a walkthrough and a review of a deck that I know well and that I've worked with. Because this is all the artwork of Odilon Redon, who was a surrealist, and you know me, an artist, decks, and surrealism, and I already knew from the Sublime Tarot that I just adore Natasha Roland's way of putting things together. Her books are poetic and excellent. She's a marvelous writer. Um, and then her fealty to her subject. It's just so obvious that the depth of her knowledge of her subject. So, yeah. And for those of you who, since I mentioned the Sublime Tarot, which was one of the decks that I kind of threw in a couple days ago, I have my scheduled decks, and then I'll kind of throw some things in sometimes. It's one of the decks I threw in. She has now just come out with this. Not only is she having the second edition of the Sublime Thresholds Tarot on Kickstarter, I think it's still on Kickstarter, but she just came out with the Sublime Thresholds Oracle. Now, the Sublime Thresholds Tarot had, I think, 10 Oracle cards with it, but she's just come out with a full Oracle deck, which I'm tremendously excited about. So those were my two allowed purchases of the month. Then finally this month, I got my Secret Garden Renaissance Tarot deck. Now, this was a Kickstarter that I got way back last fall. I love the coloration of it, the black background with bright florals. I've already done a walkthrough of this as a flip through of this deck as well, showing the extra things that came with it, including a mat and including an art book, which delineates for many of the cards the digital method of the progress from the first sketch to the card. They say that no AI is involved. However, I know people that work with AI, and they say that it is indisputable that AI was used. And I don't have that knowledge set to know. So I can only go by the people who know generative AI and know the images that come up. And I think this is one of the issues with AI, is that AI was trained on digital artwork. So because AI was trained on digital artwork, and because there are digital artists who are working in the style of some AI work, it becomes this flow back and forth where in some styles, and this is one of them, there are, and again, it's probably only about 4 cards that just look like, oh, that has to be AI. But who's to say that the artist couldn't have been working in that same style, and that the artist might have created something that looked like AI, because AI was trained on this kind of art. But the people that I know that work with AI, with generative AI, know what images are available to start with. And so I'm kind of not as excited about it as I was, but I love the images. And again, you can only go on the word of the creator, and the creator was adamant that no AI was used. And I believe that that is one reason that the creator did page page after page in the guidebook of full progress from pencil sketch to complete. because I think this person knew that as a digital artist, they were going to have someone say that they had to have used AI. Anyway, I have it already. I backed it, I have it. It has a stillness to it that I am, it's like the secret garden. There's a real stillness to it. And that's where in my mind, I say, is it digital art that's still, or is it AI art that's dead? And that's a question I will be unpacking with it as I work with it more. As I said, there are a couple cards that disturb me because they look dead. This is so hard to explain. It's the artwork itself looks dead. It looks manufactured, and as I said, there may be about 4 cards that strike me that way. Anyway, so that was a Kickstarter that came in, and then I lost my mind. There were a couple things that I knew were going to come up on Kickstarter at the beginning of the year, and I knew I was going to back them. One of them is the Artifacts and Envoys Oracle that goes with the Forager's Daughter Tarot. Those of you who know me know I adore the Forager's Daughter. I love the creator, Jessica Lee Howard. I've had marvelous interactions with her, and so I knew when that Kickstarter came up, I was going to back it. So that was something that happened, I think, in January. And the way I have this elaborate system for myself of, well, it's not coming till March, so I'm not actually buying it until March. Shh. So, and there's another, there's a French tarot that it's not on Kickstarter, but it's like on a European version of Kickstarter. And that won't even come until May or something. And the pre-order of something that Nova just showed, a pre-order of the Tarot Divinatorium, which is high Rococo art. And, you know, Rococo is me. Baroque and Rococo is what, as a child, I was particularly enamored with. Yes, as a child, I was interested in the art from the 1700s. So I knew I would be pre-ordering that. So those are pre-orders. And that doesn't come until April, I think. And then Tarot with Mims showed the new Jane Austen tarot. A couple other people did as well, but Tarot with Mims was the first that I saw, and then she linked to her compendium of Jane Austen decks, one of which has been on my list for at least 2 years. This oddball Jane Austen deck, which, even though it was early in my time with it, I did a walkthrough of this because I had an understanding. I've been looking at it for so long, I have an understanding of the structure of the deck. And the reason I had put it off is because I knew it was only 53 cards, and I didn't understand how it was a tarot. Well, in my walkthrough, I explained that. And because the majors are linked to various random cards within the deck, sometimes quite random cards within the deck. So you can, it definitely is a tarot. And then you can either, because the major is on one of the minors, you can either read it as the minor, as the major, or read it as both. But anyway, that makes it, although it's missing 2 of the majors. But I talked about how I assigned those 2 majors that make sense for me. So for me, it definitely is a tarot, but it's also an oracle. It's also a Sibylla. Um, it's also a playing card deck. Because of its structure, you could just use it to play cards with. And it's beautiful. The artwork is the closest I've seen of any of the Jane Austen decks to the illustrations that were often published in the Jane Austen books or from that time period. So this was just a matter of when I would get it, not if I would get it. It's been out there. Now, because of Mims, I was looking for that one. This one popped up. Barnes & Noble about a third of the original price. It was on sale at Barnes & Noble. So I said, okay, Jane Austen. So I've done walkthroughs of both of these Jane Austen. Flip through of this one, walk through of this one. This is also a pip deck. So this is neither nor. This is everything. This is like everything and nothing. It's like some of them are pips, some of them are decorated. And then it has all of the characters from her books in there. And then this one has characters associated with the court cards, but it's a pip deck. So much more straightforward pip deck in that regard. Much more traditional tarot format. Lovely kind of watercolor drawings. And an interesting book that ties these things together. The book on this does not. This would definitely not be for a beginner tarot reader. I'm glad I got it now and not 2-3 years ago when I was looking at it, because the book is more like a Sibylla book. It does talk about the character that's mentioned on the card, but it just gives you 1 or 2 sentences for each card, much more like a Sibylla deck. So it's so those were my Jane Austen downfall. I bought a deck that turned out to be fake, and my money was returned on eBay. So we won't mention that. And then another one that's been around for a long time. It's still in its plastic wrapper. The Alchemical Visions Tarot has been on my wish list for 2 years, and I got it. I'm sure it was half price. I mean, this is kind of an expensive deck at Thrift Books. Yeah, I got it half price on Thrift Books. So you can, I'm trying to get the glare off of that. So it has more, Rochelle at Amethyst Ascensions did a detailed showing of this. I think she was talking about something else, but was showing this deck. And one of my hesitancies about this is I thought it was all grayscale with very little color. And then I realized it has a lot more color than I thought. And that's why I'd put it off for so long. It's a very large size deck. Turns out this deck was not, it's, I watched a couple reviews, the people I like. It actually says it's not meant to be used for card reading. It's meant to be used for meditation. And that's one reason for the very large size. You know, that's not going to stop me. But you don't get to tell me what to do. You don't tell me what to do. So this is another one of my new decks. I think that's it. I was really, really, really bad this month. I just forgot my word. I forgot retrench. we'll see what happens next month. And I'm realizing, it's not like some people who are someone who's planning a trip, who have a reason to not be getting texts. I don't really not have that reason, except my own kind of wanting to be kind of faithful to Dex, and maybe that's not enough. And in the course of this, of course, I'm telling you, I'm really cutting out the chaff. I'm like, this is like with my brown rice. I'm washing those seed covers away. I'm just, the ones that I don't have patience for, they're going, and they're going to go one way or the other. They're going in my suitcase of shame, and used to be the suitcase of regret. Now it's not even regret. Now it's just the suitcase of time for you to go. Um, so, um, so those are a lot of the things that I've done this month. Oh, going back to my Tarot de Marseille study, I am working in those 6 books. I'm reading those 6 books. I did find out, I'm not, for those who've been curious, the Tarot de Marseille book that I got by Johannes Fiebig, because I adore his writing style, um, and it's not just Johannes Fiebig, it's Johannes Fiebig and Evelyn Berger, and together they write books. It's the book that came with a really digitally clear deck, and those pictures are in the book. It's problematic. It becomes very clear, as Ina said about the Lady Lorelei book. She feels that book veers too much towards the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings. This book, even more so. I know Johannes Fiebig from his brilliant writing about Rider-Waite-Smith, and I would say that on one hand, I feel like this Tarot de Marseille book of his does the same. It kind of makes some baseline assumptions based on Rider-Waite-Smith knowledge that you wouldn't make if you were entering straight into Tarot de Marseille. And at least I can catch that because I know the difference. And I can say, and it's the fact that they are so well versed. He and Evelyn are so well versed in Rider-Waite-Smith that it's coming through in their Tarot de Marseille book. So you can only get it with the deck, and it's a deck I didn't like, and so I'd say this is the book of his that I'd miss. I still intend to get his Thoth book. It's structured differently. His mindfulness was the word I couldn't think of last month. His Rider-Waite-Smith book about the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot and the mindfulness, using tarot for mindfulness that they wrote, is structured in a way where it has the picture and it talks about each individual symbol, and the Thoth book does the same thing. And for me, who still, I remain uninterested in Lady Frida Harris's visions of Thoth, but I do have a couple other Thoth decks, so I'd like to know those traditional ones. It occurred to me, well, I don't need to get a deck. I can just use those illustrations in that book for my historical framework on those images, and then extrapolate to these newer decks with a very different imagery. So those, and I explored one of Yov Ben Dov's spreads a couple of days. Not the way I did with Arthur Edward Waite last month with a full series, but I explored one of Yov Bandov's readings, and that's kind of at the back of his book on the Marseille. Deck of the month. I thought I brought it in here. Oh, I didn't talk about the 4 decks that I'm using for my Tarot de Marseille study, but I will throw in, I did get to work some with Tarot of the Third Millennium, the out-of-print deck that I got last month that has insets of the Tarot de Marseille. I did get to work with this, and I love it. Love it. I love layers. And especially this contradiction between the, although it's kind of like between the court and daily life, because even though there are aspects of modernity in the background drawings of this deck, a lot of them still look like they're set in medieval times, in a medieval urban setting. So the decks I've been using for that Tarot de Marseille study are the Conver Bendov, the Classic, which is a version of the Soprafino by Los Carabeo. The Fox's Wedding is my modern deck. And the Tarocchi Italiani Matronua, which is surprisingly cohesive with the Conver Bendov. It's just big and beautiful, and I do understand she's coming out with a smaller version. So I thought I brought the deck in here. I don't think it'll be any surprise. My deck of the month is the Edvard Munch Tarot. After working with it with one of my, in my rotation of decks, my conglomeration of decks, my mélange of decks from this month, it remains incredibly unique and special, and I adore working with it, and I adore what it brings to the table every time I work with it, whether it's one card in a mix of others or a spread by itself. It's the art, it's the color, it's the way the guidebook is written, everything about it. It's incredible. It's incredible for me. Some people will hate, about 50% of the deck is landscape format, and some people hate that. For me, that's not an issue. It is what it is, and it's not a problem, and I enjoy that aspect too. So my deck of the month for February is the Edvard Munch Tarot. Oh, I forgot to say, I've also been throwing in the Visconti Sforza. I continue to be having my special moment with the Visconti Sforza, even though I had a reading where it's just, I was just off when I started, and it's like I've been used to dealing with these Tarot de Marseille decks, they're up there, that have scimitars. So I just forgot that in the Visconti Sforza, they're straight swords in the Visconti Sforza. And so I was like, they're swords, they're wands, they're swords, they're wands, they're swords, they're wands. And I was like, wait a minute. I got it straightened out by the time I actually read the card, read each one of those cards, but it was funny because it was like, I was just, I wasn't there at that moment with those. So, I hope you had a wonderful February. We always say around here that usually our last snowfall of the year is in March. My father used to say that, and then when he got dementia, he started saying the last snowfall of the year comes in May. It's in May. And this is one of those times with dementia when you're like, May? You sure you mean May? Okay. Okay. Sure. It's not Alaska. Um, but anyway, usually our last snowfall here, even in a temperate year, we'll usually get some little kind of ditzy snowfall in March. And so we just had this large eastern seaboard system that was, evidence of our weather systems being out of whack that came through. But I still expect probably one more, and I like that. I mean, this is because we're only half an hour or an hour from the beach. Um, a lot of the people that live here are beach people, and so they don't like winter. I mean, I like the beach in winter too, um, but and I've always had trouble with heat and sunstroke and since my childhood, and so um, I'm not a beach person. But the thing for me is I really like seasons. So even with trees down, I loved the snow. I loved having this, and my dog likes snow too. I'll include a picture of that. Um, so I hope your February is great. I hope your March is. Um, I hope we have some resolution, some much needed resolution of some big, big international issues. The scales seem to be falling from the eyes of some people who are in a position to do something about it. Um, so we can live in hope and meanwhile do what we can. Thanks for spending time with me. As always, have a great day.